Annie Spilman is with the National Federation of Independent Business, NFIB. If you have a small business, chances are you're very familiar with this organization. Happy New Year, Ms. Spilman. Pleasure speaking with you. I'm sure you're very excited that we got a new legislative session up and running up in Austin here very soon. Tell folks, some business folks that may not be familiar with you, small business folks, tell them about NFIB. What do you folks do? What do you provide?
Yes, well, Happy New Year, and thanks for having us here. So NFIB, we're a member-governed organization. It's one member, one vote, and we represent small businesses. And the interesting thing about NFIB is we don't represent just one industry. We represent businesses from pretty much every economic sector of the state, which makes us really unique when we're speaking with legislators, because we're talking about what issues affect small business owners in various industries and not just one industry. And so in that, we become a resource at the Capitol. We're oftentimes invited as a resource to testify in front of the legislature as to what is affecting these small business owners across the state of Texas and the country. And the good thing about NFIB is that I don't just sit here and make it up. We actually ballot our members. So we come up with actual data and problems and priorities that our members are telling us.
All right. So I'm sure you probably ran plenty of ballots with your membership. So what are they saying? Property taxes, incentives? What do they want? What did the membership, the business owners want from you to represent up in Austin?
Correct. Well, actually, as we sit here today, we just released our small business economic trends report, and that talks about what is the small business optimism right now. And I'll tell you, overall, optimism from small business owners going into 2023 is not good, and it can be based on a multitude of things. Obviously, I don't think I have to tell your listeners, but we are still having supply chain issues. We're still having labor shortages. We're still having inflation. But to top it all off, this is the time of year where our small business owners and other businesses, but it's harder on a small business, are having to pay their property taxes. And I'm not just talking about their homeowners' property taxes. In Texas, they pay a business personal property tax. And that doesn't just mean the property that their business sits on or the building that they own. In Texas, we are one of only 9 states that taxes businesses on their tangible items. Anything that they've got in their business, whether it be their desk or their equipment or their inventory for retail or, the bowls that they use to mix up baked goods to sell to their customers, they have to pay a tax on every single one of those items, and it's very burdensome.
Well, you learn something new every day, but can you imagine if they did that to you at your house, at your homestead?
No.
If they tax you that way for the flat screen televisions and the nice furniture and the collectibles that you have in your house? Boy, that's crazy. Is there any chance we can get that changed this session?
It is crazy. And, what's even more interesting about it, and I'll answer your question about what we hope we can get done this session, but what's even crazier about it is, if you think about it, they've already bought all of these items, and now they're being taxed on the items that they've already bought and paid sales tax on. Furthermore, and these small business owners, they don't have in-house CPAs, so guess what? They have to spend more money to hire a CPA to value all of these items. They then remit these remittance sheets to their local appraisers for the items that they've got within those buildings, and a lot of times they come back and they say, no, business owner, we don't think you valued these items high enough. You actually owe us more money. So they can either spend money hiring a lawyer to battle it or write them a check for more money, which guess what? They don't have. Do we hope the legislature is going to do something about it? Well, that's why we're talking to you, and that's why we're a small business organization. We need the small businesses to come together and talk to their legislators, come to Small Business Day, express how bad this tax is. And for your listeners, this is called the inventory tax. It's sort of its nickname. But we've got $32.7 billion in a surplus, as was announced by our comptroller yesterday. There is money on the table for our legislature to offer some tax relief for our small business owners that employ over 5 million people in this state. And so this isn't just helping out, quote unquote, the business owner. This is helping out the people that they employ. They can give bonuses, better benefits, increased wages, hire more people. So this goes right back into the pockets of the people that they employ.
Annie Spilman is with the National Federation of Independent Business, NFIB. If you own a small business, you should consider joining NFIB. What's the annual or monthly, what's the membership fee for a business joining NFIB, Annie?
Well, that's what's interesting. It's sort of kind of what you can afford. We have businesses that have maybe one employee and some that have 50, but we have our state lobby team here. We've got our federal lobby team. We've got our legal center, and we have our chief economist. And you can join NFIB for like $169 a year, and you get all of that. But I would encourage your listeners, specifically for our Cut the Inventory Tax campaign, to go to nfib.com/Texas Tax Cut. But also, come see us in Austin on February 14th. We've got our Small Business Day, and that's where we're going to all come together as small business owners across the state. We're going to have some keynote speakers there. It's going to be a good time, and we're going to go over to the Capitol, and we're going to visit with our legislators there.
Have you run some of the numbers to explain to lawmakers, if you get rid of this, inventory tax, which is not only the stuff that's on the shelf, but it's the shelves themselves and the equipment that produces the stuff. Everything. It's like you're renting, for some businesses, they're renting land from state, local school district, and county government and city government. They're renting land from them because they're paying taxes on the land, right, the building. Mm-hmm. But some of them are paying, they're renting equipment and the shelves and, the spoons and everything else that they have in their business. Some of them are doing both, the land and the equipment. Some of them are leasing or renting where they're at. Are those businesses being taxed just for the sake of fleecing those businesses based on the number of chairs and tables and spoons and pots that they have? Because they are renting from somebody else. They're not paying the tax. Well, they're helping to pay the tax. But
and they're still having to pay on these items.
The inventory.
That's the thing. Is this really hurts pretty much all small businesses, because most all small businesses have desks and chairs. But then it also hits the folks that are heavier on inventory or equipment. And you think of your local restaurants, everything that's inside of that restaurant. I often say, if you want to visualize it, take that building, turn it upside down. Everything that falls out, they're going to have to list on a piece of paper. They're going to have to value each one of those items, and they're going to have to remit it to their local taxing district. And I think what you're going to say is, sort of either what is the value that this gives back? I think it's going to up the, certainty for these small business owners that this is going to be less money out of my pocket. So I'm feeling a little bit more certain about a small business owner and my future. I'm feeling a little bit more certain about being able to employ a couple more people, to be able to increase their wages, maybe even get some more equipment, expand my business, do what's right for the economy. I mean, these small businesses are the identities of our communities. And if we continue to hammer them with taxes and regulation that are over and above what's really required to take care of this state and our people, then we are going to see our communities go by the wayside. And we can't afford that. So I think it's intangible, the value that cutting this tax would bring for our small businesses and for our communities.
I find it inexcusable and perplexing, inexcusable, and an insult. Here we are, Texas, top business state in the nation, and yet we're fleecing small businesses like this, everything that they have. Are you willing, Annie Spilman from the National Federation of Independent Business, are you willing to consider maybe creating a strata where businesses of a certain size, you're a mom and pop shop, so you guys protect yourself. Is that even possible? That even considered? Or maybe you can create a strata or a lower tier. We protect small businesses in this country, in the state. Is that even being considered?
Well, I would love to do that, but unfortunately politics is politics. And when we've done that in the past in regard to the franchise tax, we've had the big business lobbyist over there fighting against it, and which isn't good, because you know what, when there's some issues on the table like the tax incentives or the abatements, the small business community doesn't go and fight the big businesses on that.
I was about to say.
Because we say, guess what? If the big businesses are coming into the state and they're doing okay, look, the small businesses can start working with them and maybe do business with them. But on the, vice versa, on the other side of that, when we try to do things and try to, faction out some help for the small businesses, you're going to see that fought back against. I will tell you this, though. Governor Abbott has put on the table in his Taxpayer Bill of Rights that he would like to increase the inventory tax exemption to $100,000. We do commend him for that, and we do think that's a good start. Yeah. It's a good start, because right now the exemption is only $2,500, and for the smallest of the small business, that really doesn't even do anything. So we thank Governor Abbott for saying, hey, let's look at increasing this exemption to $100,000.
Yeah.
But that's why we're starting session today. We've got 181 legislators that are convening, and they'll be sworn in today at noon. And we've got this bicameral process. This is the time to talk about it.
Yep.
And so this is when the small business community can talk to their legislators, can come to our NFIB Small Business Day and say, this is on the table. We either need to put the exemption up to this certain level, or we need to get rid of this tax, because guess what? If we got rid of this tax, it's not going to put a hole in our state budget. Yeah. We're doing okay in Texas. And I think to give money back to our small business community is going to go a really long way for the state of Texas.
No, and live up to our claim of being pro-business. Right. Pro-business. I mean, that $100,000 exemption, that could easily go to $1 million exemption, and I don't think it's going to affect anything. In fact, it would likely spur more people creating businesses if they know that the mixers and the machines and the packing machines and all, if they got $1 million worth of equipment in-house that will not be taxed by the state of Texas, the stupid inventory tax, it might help.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I had a member tell me yesterday, he said, literally, quote, if the state wants to help small businesses in Texas, they need to help us out and send us back some of the state surplus that this stupid tax gives them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, business owners are upset about this. And you know what I've always said is when a business owner, when they may net a profit, which a lot of times they're not netting profits, okay? They're generally breaking even because everything goes back into their business. But if they net a profit, they're not going to buy a second home, out in Padre, okay? They are raising compensation. They're doing everything they can to stay competitive and keep people employed on board with them so they don't lose them to the Samsungs and the Walmarts and the big boys. Yeah. Because guess what? They spend a lot of time and money when they hire folks, training them, becoming part of their families. And so when they get to keep more money in their pockets, they're going to put that right back into the pockets of the people that they employ.
Yeah,
and that's what the government needs to understand.
Absolutely. Remind them. They know the truth. They know that the golden goose needs to lay the egg and lay more eggs for them to scratch the gold off those golden eggs for whatever stupid stuff they want to spend on. But I think your strongest argument is like in the newscast that I had, or the governor's cookie jar, the incentive money to bring huge corporate America, bring big corporations down here. That's great. You're kicking the can down the street 10, 20 years for these tax abatements and all those things and cutting them one big fat multi-million-dollar check on behalf of the state of Texas from his cookie jar. Great. But that's your biggest argument. And you could say, look, we'll support your incentive cash, your cookie jar, your piggy bank, but give us something for small business, because after all, small businesses, you include everybody, they're the largest employer, collectively, they're the largest employer in our countries, all the mom and pop shops, all the small businesses, all the small manufacturers. You need to tell them, look, we'll support you, bring industry, we're going to be job friendly. Are we truly going to be job friendly, or are we going to be hypocrites about this? Because right now we're hypocrites. That's not good.
You know, thank you. I was just going to say, and you know what, Texas, we can do better. We can do better than that.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Actually, I feel like we are going to do better. We've got the opportunity. We're starting legislative session today. And Governor Abbott, he supports small businesses, and so we're ready to work with he and the rest of the legislature.
Good luck, Annie. Keep us posted on what's taking place up there. You're welcome back anytime. Give us updates. I know you've got some committees and other votes coming up. Hopefully you'll make it to the floor and get you some relief for these small businesses. Annie Spilman with the National Federation of Independent Business. You're running a small business. Look for them, NFIB. Sign up and join the fight for your livelihood. Push back all those politicians. Time's 9:20.